The bridge of the Sovereign Talon hummed with anticipation, 49 sister ships, hanging in formation like predators circling wounded prey. Commander Vectara adjusted her thermal sensors, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. One human, just one, and they'd brought enough firepower to glass a planet. Overkill much, muttered her tactical officer Rilmora, all four of his eyes fixed on the scanning display. Silence, Vectara snapped, though privately, she agreed. The Galactic Council didn't dispatch 50 dreadnoughts for a single target unless that target was special or stupid or both. The human vessel appeared on their screens, a battered freighter that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and sheer stubbornness. The lucky shot, according to their databases. What kind of species named their warships after probability? Target acquired, announced Rilmora. No shields, minimal weapons, life signs, 1. Vectara felt her confidence surge. This would be easy, embarrassingly easy. She'd be back at the orbital station by dinner, probably with a commendation and definitely with a story that would make her the envy of every officer in the fleet. All ships, assume capture formation. Remember, the Council wants this human alive. 50 massive vessels moved into position, their combined mass enough to generate measurable gravitational distortion. The freighter sat there doing absolutely nothing. Not fleeing, not fighting, just sitting. Commander, Rilmora's voice carried a note of uncertainty. The human is broadcasting. Put it through. The view screen flickered, revealing a human male in what appeared to be a drink-stained flight suit, feet propped on his console, eating something that looked suspiciously like dried protein strips. He waved casually at the camera. Hey there, folks. Name's Jake Morrison. Beautiful day for a space confrontation, isn't it? He took another bite, chewing thoughtfully. Love what you've done with the fleet arrangement, by the way. Very symmetrical. Did you practice that? Vectara's mandibles twitched in irritation. Human Morrison, you are ordered to power down your engines and prepare for boarding. Resistance will be met with lethal force. Jake laughed. Actually laughed, like she'd told a particularly amusing joke. Lethal force? Ma'am, you brought 50 ships to arrest one guy eating beef jerky in his underwear. I think we both know you're not authorized for lethal anything. How did he know that? The mission briefing was classified at the highest levels. Vectara felt the first cold whisper of doubt creep down her spine. Surrender now, or we will disable your vessel. See, that's where things get interesting, Jake said, sitting up and brushing crumbs off his chest. You could do that. Absolutely. But then you'd have to explain to the Council why you destroyed the only person in the galaxy who knows where the Praxis Archive is hidden. The bridge went silent. The Praxis Archive. The legendary database containing every piece of advanced technology the ancient Praxis civilization had developed before mysteriously vanishing 3,000 years ago. It was a myth, a fairy tale. Wasn't it? You're bluffing, Vectara said, but her voice lacked conviction. Am I? Jake grinned, and there was something predatory in that expression that made her thermal regulators spike. Tell you what, let's make this sporting. You've got 50 ships. I've got one very lucky freighter and a really bad attitude. If you can capture me in the next hour, I'll tell you everything. If you can't, he shrugged. Well, I guess the Praxis Archive stays lost forever. This is ridiculous, Rilmora. Target his engines and the lucky shot moved. No, moved was too gentle a word. It exploded into motion like a nova, accelerating at speeds that should have liquefied any organic being inside. One moment it was stationary, the next it was threading through their formation like a needle through fabric, so close to the Sovereign Talon that Vectara could see the scratches on its hull plating. All ships open fire, she screamed. 49 dreadnoughts unleashed hell, energy beams, kinetic rounds, plasma bursts, everything in their considerable arsenals converging on a single point in space where the human freighter had been precisely 1.3 seconds ago. Jake's laughter echoed across the communication channel. Oh, come on. My grandmother could dodge better than that, and she's been dead for 20 years. The lucky shot appeared above their formation, somehow, impossibly upside down relative to their orientation. How had he gotten there? Their sensors showed no warp signature, no hyperspace ripple, nothing to indicate faster than light travel. You know what your problem is? Jake's voice crackled through the speakers. You think in 3 dimensions. Space is more fun when you get creative. He dove. The freighter plunged straight down through the center of their formation, and Vectara watched in horror as 3 of her ships, overcorrecting their firing solutions, accidentally struck each other. Shields flared, hulls buckled, and alarms screamed across multiple channels. 3 down, 47 to go, Jake called out cheerfully. Current time, 4 minutes, 18 seconds. You're running out of hour, Commander. Victhara's claws dug into her command chair. Rilmora. Analysis. How is he doing this? Her tactical officer's display showed data that made no sense. Commander, his reactor output is minimal. That ship shouldn't be capable of any of this. The G-forces alone should have killed him during that first acceleration. No organic being can survive 18 Gs without inertial dampeners, and our scans show his dampeners are offline. Then scan again. I've scanned 6 times. The readings are consistent. He's pulling maneuvers that should turn his internal organs into soup. On screen, the Lucky Shot barrel rolled between 2 cruisers, their point defense systems tracking frantically. Jake flew through their crossfire like he could see the future, each movement perfectly calculated to put him exactly where the weapons weren't. Fun fact, his voice boomed across all channels. Humans have this thing called an inner ear, helps with balance, makes us really good at 3-dimensional spatial awareness. Ukrell, on the other hand, evolved in shallow seas, 2-dimensional thinking. It's adorable, really. A Krell captain on one of the sister ships responded with a stream of what Vecthara assumed were profanities. She couldn't blame him. Jake's freighter suddenly stopped, absolute zero velocity in an instant, hanging in space like it was nailed there. Every ship in the fleet overshot, momentum carrying them past their target. By the time they reversed thrust, he was already moving again, this time straight at the Sovereign Talon. Evasive maneuvers, Vecthara ordered. Too late. The Lucky Shot didn't fire weapons, didn't ram them. Instead it executed a maneuver so audacious that Vecthara would later struggle to describe it. The freighter flipped 90 degrees, ignited its main thrusters at full burn, and used the Sovereign Talon's own shields as a springboard, the energy discharge accelerating it at an angle no conventional propulsion system could achieve. Did he just bounce off our shields? Rilmora asked, all 4 eyes wide with disbelief. Yup, Jake confirmed, clearly listening to their internal communications. Also, you should really encrypt your command channel. I've been hearing everything for the last 10 minutes. Hi, Rilmora. Your concern about overkill was totally justified, buddy. Rilmora made a strangled sound. Jam all frequencies, Vecthara ordered. I want him deaf and blind. The communications officer worked frantically. Jamming activated, Commander. All standard frequencies blocked. Great. Jake's voice came through clear as starlight. Now we're using backup channel 7. Thanks for clearing out the clutter. Really appreciate it. How? How was this possible? The human had a freighter held together with optimism and spot welds, and he was making a fool of the finest fleet in Council space. Current time 12 minutes 42 seconds, Jake announced. Still sitting at 47 ships. You folks need to step up your game. Target his trajectory, Vecthara snarled. Predictive firing patterns. He has to run out of maneuvering options eventually. The fleet adjusted, weapon systems calculating thousands of potential paths, preparing to fill every possible escape route with lethal energy. It was a classic pincer movement, one that had worked against the Brel Confederacy, the Zarn Collective, and the Yoth Rebellion. It lasted 8 seconds before Jake did something that violated at least 3 laws of physics. His freighter split. Not exploded. Split. The hull plating peeled away in sections, revealing more ship underneath. What they'd thought was a simple cargo hauler was apparently an armored shell over something much nastier. The core vessel that emerged was sleek, predatory, and accelerating at speeds that made their previous performance look leisurely. Surprise, Jake shouted. You didn't think I'd actually fly around in a garbage scow, did you? That was just the gift wrapping. The true Lucky Shot moved like liquid mercury, dancing between energy beams with contemptuous ease, and now it was shooting back. Small, precise bursts of coherent energy lanced out, striking not hulls but sensor arrays, communication dishes, targeting computers. Non-lethal, Vecthara realized with growing horror. He was being careful not to kill anyone even while systematically dismantling their offensive capabilities. This is impossible, she whispered. One ship cannot defeat 50. Sure it can, Jake replied, still listening somehow. Just needs the right pilot, and maybe a species crazy enough to think gravity is a suggestion rather than a law. A wing of 6 fighters broke formation, attempting to swarm him. Jake dropped a device that Victara's sensors identified as a standard distress beacon. The fighters converged on it, assuming it was a trick. It was. The beacon exploded, not with fire but with an electromagnetic pulse that fried every unshielded system within 50 meters. All 6 fighters went dark, drifting helplessly. "Sorry about that," Jake called out. "They'll reboot in a few minutes. Might want to send a tug, though." 21 minutes into the engagement, Vectara had lost 16 ships to various states of disabled, damaged, or destroyed. Not a single crew member killed, she noted bitterly. The human was toying with them, demonstrating superiority without crossing into actual warfare. "Commander," Willamora said quietly, "we should withdraw. This isn't a battle we can win." "Withdraw? From one human in a freighter? That's not a freighter anymore, and you know it." On screen, Jake executed a barrel roll through a debris field of his own creation, weapons fire tracking behind him like a light show. He was humming something, a tune that their translators couldn't quite process. "You've got 31 minutes left," he announced, "and I'm getting bored. Tell you what, let's make this interesting. I'll give you one free shot. I'll stop moving for 10 whole seconds. Come on, what do you say?" It was a trap. Obviously a trap. But what choice did they have? "All ships," Vectara ordered, hating herself, "concentrate fire on target. Full power, on my mark." The lucky shot drifted to a stop, hanging in space like a gift. Jake waved at them through the view screen, still eating those protein strips. "Mark," Vectara whispered. 34 ships fired simultaneously. Enough energy to vaporize a moon converged on a single point in space. The lucky shot was gone. Not destroyed. Just gone. Vanished. Disappeared between one microsecond and the next. "Anyone got eyes on target?" Vectara demanded. Silence. Then from the communications officer, "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from inside the Sovereign Talon." Ice flooded Vectara's thermal regulators. "What?" Jake's face appeared on every screen throughout the ship. He was standing in their cargo bay, hands in pockets, looking around with interest. "Nice ship," he said, conversationally. "Could use better lighting, though. Very gloomy. Anyway, I'm claiming this vessel as a prize of war. Nothing personal, you understand. Just business." "How did you—" "Teleportation. Well, sort of. More like very precise wormhole manipulation, but teleportation sounds cooler. Your shields were down for 0.003 seconds during that massed firing sequence. That's all I needed." Wilmora pulled up internal sensors. "Commander, he's telling the truth. One human life sign in Cargo Bay 7. He's really there." "Now," Jake continued, "you've got 2 choices. 1, you can try to capture me inside your own ship, which I guarantee will end badly for everyone. Or 2, you can accept that maybe, just maybe, sending 50 ships to grab one human was a tactical error of historic proportions, and we can all go home with minimal embarrassment." Vectara felt her career crumbling. "The Council will demand answers. Then tell them the truth. You engaged a human operating under Rules of Engagement Protocol 7 and discovered that humans are better at this than anyone expected. They'll understand. Humans have been making people look silly in combat for generations. It's kind of our thing." "Why are you doing this?" she asked, genuinely curious now. "The Praxis archive, the games, all of it?" Jake's expression turned serious for the first time. "Because your council wanted to take me by force instead of asking nicely. Because they assumed one human would be easy prey. And because sometimes, Commander, the galaxy needs a reminder that small doesn't mean weak, and underestimated doesn't mean helpless." He pulled something from his pocket, a data chip. "The Praxis archive location, right here. I was always going to hand it over. I just wanted it done with respect, not chains. Tell the Council that next time they want something from humanity, they should try diplomacy first. We're much more cooperative when people aren't pointing guns at us." Jake tossed the chip toward a camera. "I'm leaving now. Don't follow me. And Commander, you fought well considering you were outmatched from the start. No shame in losing to someone who's been preparing for this fight their entire evolution." The transmission cut out. Internal sensors showed the human disappearing the same way he'd arrived, molecular patterns scattering like he'd never been there at all. Vectara slumped in her command chair, exhausted. Around her, the bridge crew worked in stunned silence, assessing damage, counting losses, and trying to understand what had just happened. "Wilmora," she said finally, "prepare a full report for the Council. Tell them everything." "Everything, Commander?" Everything. And make sure you include the part where I recommended we never ever try this again. Outside, the Lucky Shot appeared on their sensors one last time, accelerating away at impossible speeds. Jake's voice crackled through one final transmission. Oh, and Commander, you were right about one thing. It really is a beautiful day for a space confrontation. Same time next never? Then he was gone, leaving 50 battered ships and one very important lesson hanging in the void. When dealing with humans, always remember that they evolved on a planet that spent millions of years trying to kill them, and they won. The council chamber on Velarin Prime hummed with tension 3 days after what was already being called the Morrison incident. Vecthara stood at the center of the circular platform, surrounded by holographic projections of the 12 species that comprised the Galactic Council. She'd prepared her report meticulously, documented every second of the engagement, and still felt woefully unprepared for the storm about to break. High Chancellor Morvex, a towering Zentari whose crystalline exoskeleton refracted light into unsettling patterns, spoke first. His voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of diplomatic experience and precisely 0 patience for failure. 50 ships, Commander. 50 of our finest dreadnoughts. And you return with 16 disabled, 3 destroyed and 1 captured, by a single human in what you initially described as a garbage freighter. That description was accurate at the time, Chancellor. We had no way of knowing that humans are capable of military deception, that they might possess technology beyond our intelligence estimates. Morvex's crystals flashed angry red. Commander, these are basic tactical considerations. Children learn these principles. Vecthara's mandibles clicked in agitation, but she held her composure. With respect, Chancellor, our intelligence on human military capabilities was incomplete. Deliberately incomplete, I suspect. That got their attention. The council chamber fell silent. 12 species waiting for her to continue. She debated whether to include this part in her report, knowing it would make powerful enemies. But after 3 days of reviewing sensor logs and communication intercepts, she'd found patterns too obvious to ignore. The mission briefing listed Morrison as a smuggler, low threat, minimal combat training. However, during the engagement, he demonstrated familiarity with Council fleet protocols, knew our command encryption methods, and possessed detailed knowledge of Krell tactical weaknesses. She paused, letting that sink in. Someone fed him that information. Someone with access to classified military databases. Council member Thrix, a serpentine Hassani, whose species prided themselves on information brokerage, shifted uncomfortably. You're suggesting espionage within the council itself. I'm suggesting that Morrison was significantly better prepared than any smuggler should be. And I'm wondering why our intelligence services failed to identify him as a threat worthy of proper respect rather than overwhelming force. Respect? Morivex's crystals flared brighter. Commander, you were sent to apprehend a criminal who stole council property. The Praxis archive location is not his to bargain with. Actually, a new voice interrupted, smooth and utterly human. It kind of is. Every sensor in the council chamber screamed warnings simultaneously. Jake Morrison materialized in the center of the platform, right next to Vecthara, hands in his pockets and that infuriating smile on his face. Security forces erupted from alcoves around the chamber, weapons trained on the human. Jake didn't even glance at them. Relax, folks. I'm here for the galaxy's dullest parent-teacher conference, not to start anything, though I appreciate the welcome party. How did you penetrate council security? Morifex demanded, his voice shaking the chamber. Walked through the front door. Well, technically teleported through several front doors, but the principle stands. Your security is designed to stop ships and armies, not one guy with a really good grasp of quantum mechanics. Jake turned to Vecthara, nodding respectfully. Commander, read your report. Very fair, very thorough. I especially liked the part where you called my flying style reckless and borderline suicidal. It was both those things, Vecthara said carefully, aware that dozens of weapons were pointed in their general direction. True. But it worked, which is what matters. Anyway, I'm here because your bosses don't seem to understand something important about humans, and I figure a live demonstration beats a written essay. Moravex's crystals shifted to a dangerous purple. You will surrender immediately, or we will open fire. See, that right there, that's the problem. Jake sighed, looking genuinely disappointed. You keep threatening violence when diplomacy would work better. Let me explain something about my species, since your intelligence files apparently suck. He held up one finger. First, humans don't respond well to threats. We evolved as persistence hunters on a nightmare planet. Threats just make us stubborn. A second finger. Second. We're cooperative when treated with basic respect, but treat us like prey, we become predators. It's a survival instinct burned into our DNA after millions of years of fighting everything from saber-toothed cats to each other. Third finger. And third, we really, genuinely, honestly hate being underestimated. It offends us on a level you can't comprehend. This is your final warning, Morifex said. Surrender or... Jake vanished. He reappeared behind Morvax's holographic projection, examining the emitter crystals with interest. Or what? You'll send 100 ships next time? 500? At what point do you realize that quantity doesn't beat quality, when the quality can literally be everywhere at once? Security forces spun, trying to track him. Jake teleported again, this time appearing next to Council Member Thrix. Hello. Love your species' information network, by the way. Very efficient. Shame about the security holes, though. I've been reading your classified files for 6 months. Thrix recoiled. Impossible. Our encryption is based on prime number factorization. Yeah, quantum computers solved that problem decades ago. Human decades, not galactic standard. Jake teleported again, now standing on the platform's railing. See, this is what I'm trying to explain. You're not behind because you're stupid. You're behind because you're comfortable. The Council has dominated this region of space for so long that you forgot how to be scared. Vecthara watched, fascinated despite herself. The human was making a point, but what point exactly? He could have killed Morvex a dozen times by now, could have sabotaged the entire chamber. Instead, he was lecturing them. Humans don't have that luxury, Jake continued. Earth is what you'd call a Class 12 death world. Everything there evolved to kill everything else. Our plants are toxic. Our animals are venomous. Our weather patterns can obliterate cities. We didn't domesticate nature. We survived it by being smarter, faster, and more adaptable than anything trying to eat us. He teleported back to the center platform. So when you send 50 ships to capture one of us, you're not dealing with a normal prey response. You're triggering millions of years of survival instinct that says outnumbered means I need to be clever, not scared. Your point being? Morefx asked coldly. My point is that the Praxis archive location was never yours to demand. The Praxis left it in human space deliberately. They knew we'd find it eventually, and they wanted us to have it, because they recognized something in humanity that you refused to see. Jake pulled out the same data chip he'd given Vecthara, holding it up to the light. The archive isn't a treasure trove of weapons, it's a warning. The Praxis were like you, Chancellor, comfortable, dominant, certain of their superiority. Then they encountered something they couldn't bully or threaten, and it destroyed them. Speculation, Morvex said, but his crystals had shifted to uncertain yellow. Is it? I've read the archive, spent 2 years translating it. The Praxis fell because they forgot how to adapt, how to change, how to respect threats they didn't understand. Sound familiar? Vecthara stepped forward, ignoring the weapons, still tracking Morrison. You said you'd give us the archive location. Was that a lie? Nope, I'm giving it to you right now. Jake tossed the chip to her. Coordinates are all there, but here's the catch. The archive is booby-trapped, specifically designed to kill anyone arrogant enough to take its knowledge by force. The Praxis were big on ironic deaths. He smiled, and there was no humor in it now. However, if you approach peacefully, ask nicely, and demonstrate that you understand the archive is a gift, not a prize, it'll open right up. The Praxis wanted their knowledge preserved, just not by species dumb enough to repeat their mistakes. You expect us to believe the archive has remained hidden for 3,000 years, waiting for someone polite? Thrix asked skeptically. I expect you to believe that advanced civilizations sometimes think long-term. The Praxis built something that would only reveal itself to species mature enough to use it wisely. Humans qualified. You might too if you stop acting like bullies with a fleet. Morvix's crystals cycled through several colors before settling on contemplative blue. And if we refuse? If we take the coordinates and claim the archive by force? Then you'll join the Praxis in extinction. And honestly, the galaxy probably doesn't need another arrogant empire anyway. Jake shrugged. Your choice, I'm just the messenger. Silence fell over the chamber. Vecthara looked at the data chip in her claws, then at Morrison, then at the council members whose projections surrounded them. She'd spent 3 days reviewing the engagement, analyzing every move the human had made, and one thing had become abundantly clear: he'd been holding back the entire time. "Commander Vecthara," Morvex said slowly, "your professional assessment, is this human telling the truth?" She clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. "Chancellor, during our engagement, Morrison disabled 16 ships without killing a single crew member. He had hundreds of opportunities for lethal force and chose non-lethal options every time. He breached our flagship's shields, teleported aboard, and left peacefully after making his point. He could have killed me, could have killed all of us. He didn't. So you believe him?" "I believe he's demonstrated more restraint and tactical sophistication than we gave him credit for. And I believe underestimating humans again would be catastrophically stupid." Jake grinned. "I like her. She learns fast." "This is still unacceptable," Council Member Vorath, our insectoid Klexar, buzzed angrily. "One human cannot dictate terms to the entire Galactic Council." "Sure I can, I just did." Jake's expression hardened. "But let's be clear about something. I'm not representing humanity here. I'm not their ambassador or their warrior. I'm just one guy who got tired of being pushed around and decided to push back. You want to know what scares me, Council? It's not your fleets or your weapons. It's knowing that there are 8 billion more humans on Earth, and a lot of them are smarter, meaner, and less diplomatic than me." That sent a ripple of unease through the chamber. Vecthara saw the calculation happening behind 12 sets of alien eyes. If one human could do this much damage, what could billions do? "Are you threatening us with human military action?" Morevix asked quietly. "Nope. I'm explaining reality. Humans aren't part of your council. We don't follow your laws. We're not interested in joining your club. But we are interested in being left alone to do our own thing in our own space. The Praxis Archive is in human territory, which means it's human property. I'm offering to share it because I believe knowledge should be shared, not hoarded." Jake walked toward Vecthara, stopping just outside arm's reach. "But that sharing happens on equal terms, not through intimidation or force. You want to be our friends? Great, we're excellent friends. Ask the Varelian Compact, they'll tell you. We trade with them, share technology, help them with their agricultural programs, all because they approached us with respect instead of guns." "The Varelians are a minor power," Thrix observed, "and they're thriving because they learned to cooperate instead of conquer. Meanwhile, your mighty council just got embarrassed by one human in a souped-up freighter. Which approach seems smarter?" Vecthara found herself suppressing what might have been amusement. The human had a point, several points actually, all of them uncomfortably accurate. Morevex's crystals shifted again, settling on a pale green that Vecthara recognized as reluctant acceptance. "Very well, Morrison. The council will consider your proposal. We will approach the archive peacefully and request access rather than demanding it. But understand this, if you're lying about any of this, if the archive proves to be a weapon or a trap, humanity will face consequences." "Fair enough," Jake said. "But if I'm telling the truth and you honor the agreement, humanity might just become your strongest ally. We're good at that too, believe it or not. We just need to be asked instead of ordered." He turned to address the entire council. "One more thing. Commander Vecthara fought smart during our engagement. She adapted, learned, and made tactically sound decisions with incomplete information. She deserves commendation, not punishment. If you demote or discipline her for my actions, I'll consider it a hostile act and respond accordingly." Vecthara's thermal regulators spiked in surprise. Was the human actually defending her? "You have no authority to dictate council personnel decisions," Vorath buzzed. "Don't I? I just penetrated your most secure facility, stood in the middle of your governing body, and nobody could stop me. I think I've earned some authority to make suggestions." Jake's smile was sharp. "Besides, punishing competent officers for encountering superior opposition is how empires get stupid. You seem like you'd prefer staying smart." Morevix looked at Vecthara, crystals swirling with calculation. "The human makes a valid point. Commander, you will retain your rank and command. In fact, you're being assigned as liaison for future human contact. Apparently you have experience we need." Vecthara clicked her mandibles in acknowledgement, trying to process this unexpected turn. "Yes, Chancellor, I accept the assignment." "Excellent choice," Jake said. "She's already got my contact information. I left it in her ship's computer during my visit, along with a few upgrades to your sensor arrays, free of charge. Consider it a gift between friends." He pulled a small device from his pocket, examining it casually. This is a human portable quantum communicator, untraceable, unhackable, and capable of real-time conversation across half the galaxy. I'm giving one to Commander Vecthara. When you're ready to discuss the archive properly, she can reach me. Until then, I'll be back in human space, probably getting yelled at by my own superiors for causing an intergalactic incident. You'll face consequences from Earth authorities, Thrix asked, surprised. Oh, definitely. Humans are big on rules and regulations, especially when one of us goes rogue and embarrasses powerful aliens. I'll probably get fined, maybe arrested, definitely lectured. Jake grinned, but they'll also give me a medal eventually, because we appreciate people who stand up for themselves even when they're not supposed to. It's complicated. He tossed the communicator to Vecthara, who caught it reflexively. The device was warm, humming with barely contained energy that her sensors couldn't quite classify. One last thing, Jake said, his voice losing its playful edge. The galaxy is bigger than any of us. Threats are coming that make our little scuffle look like a playground fight. The Praxis knew this. That's why they left the archive, not as a prize for the strongest, but as a tool for the wise. You can choose to be wise or you can choose to be proud, but you can't be both. What threats? Moravex demanded. What do you know? More than you'd believe, less than I need to. But I know that humanity didn't claw its way up from a death world just to get wiped out by something we could have prevented if we'd worked together. Jake looked at each council member in turn. The Praxis fell alone. Don't make the same mistake. He began to fade, molecules dispersing like smoke. Oh, and sorry about your ships, Commander. Send me the repair bills. I'm good for it. Humans pay their debts. Then he was gone, leaving only the faint ozone smell of displaced atmosphere and a chamber full of very thoughtful aliens. Vecthara stood in the center of the platform, data chip in one claw and communicator in the other, trying to process everything that had just happened. The human had walked into the most secure location in council space, lectured the most powerful beings in the galaxy, offered them a gift wrapped in warnings, and left without anyone being able to stop him. And somehow, despite the chaos and embarrassment, she found herself respecting him for it. Commander, Moravex said slowly, your new assignment begins immediately. Establish communication protocols with the humans, learn their customs, their expectations, their capabilities, and find out what Morrison meant about threats we don't know about. Yes, Chancellor? Vecthara hesitated, then added, permission to speak freely. Granted, Morrison was right. We underestimated them because they're small, young, and isolated. We treated them like primitives because they didn't have our technology or our alliances. But they survived conditions that would have destroyed most species, and they did it by being adaptable, creative, and too stubborn to quit. Those are valuable traits, not weaknesses. She held up the communicator. If humanity decides we're enemies, 50 ships won't be enough. 500 might not be enough. But if we treat them as equals, as potential allies, we gain access to perspectives and capabilities we desperately need. Morvex's crystals shifted to thoughtful amber. Agreed. The age of expansion through intimidation is ending, whether we like it or not. Species like humanity prove that strength comes in forms we haven't considered. We adapt or become irrelevant. Or extinct, Vecthara added quietly, like the Praxis. Yes, like the Praxis. The council chamber slowly emptied, holographic projections winking out one by one. Vecthara remained on the platform, looking at the devices Morrison had given her. The data chip containing coordinates to the greatest archaeological find in galactic history. The communicator that could reach a single human billions of miles away. Tools, gifts, tests. She activated the communicator experimentally. It hummed to life, displaying a simple interface with one contact listed. Morrison, Jake, professional nuisance. Despite everything, Vecthara clicked her mandibles in what might have been amusement. The human had a sense of humor at least. A message popped up on the screen, text only. Good luck with the new job, Commander. You'll be great at it. Just remember, humans bite when cornered, but we're loyal as hell to friends. Choose wisely which you want to be. Oh, and tell Rilamora he was right about the overkill. That guy's got good instincts. Vecthara looked up at the empty chamber, at the seat of galactic power that one human had infiltrated with contemptuous ease. They'd learned an important lesson today, she realized. Not about human technology or tactics, though those were impressive. They'd learned that the galaxy was changing, and species that failed to change with it would be left behind. The Praxis had learned that lesson too late. The council still had time. Barely. She deactivated the communicator, secured both devices, and headed for her ship. She had reports to file, repairs to oversee, and an entirely new diplomatic relationship to establish with a species that had just demonstrated they could fight like demons and negotiate like merchants. Humans, Vecthara decided, were going to be either the galaxy's salvation or its greatest headache. Possibly both. Probably both. Definitely both. And somehow she found herself looking forward to finding out which.
The galaxy sent 50 ships to capture one human. They lost them all. It's not a story. It's a warning. Humanity has arrived.